This is Tokyo Real. I'm Ian Simpson. We're on location in Hawaii, Waikiki, and sitting with me today is Ashley Meerloo. Ashley, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Ian. Good to see you.
Great. Now, you are a high-performance coach.
Yeah.
Let me kick it off with, what is a high-performance coach?
Well, for me, a high-performance coach is someone who works with an individual, whether they are a CEO, an athlete, a nurse, a doctor, surgeon, who's trying to get to that next level of performance. And I suppose the way I like to explain it is, some of your viewers may know our famous heptathlete, Jessica Ennis.
Yes.
She competes in a variety of sports in her event. And she's a very good hurdler. In fact, she could probably win a gold medal just at hurdles. But she will have a coach for every event that she does, a shot put coach, a javelin coach, a long jump coach, to get that little bit extra edge of performance so that she can be a performer that performs at the very, very highest level. So what I do is I work with individuals kind of like in an athlete performance by giving them that little bit more edge, a little bit better performance. They're already high performing people, but they know that they want to go a little bit higher, and that's the bit I work with.
Right, because there are a lot of high-performing people, but there are only a few who are the very best.
Absolutely.
And so what you're saying is, in order to be the very best in your niche or in your area, you need that little bit extra 10% in everything that you do.
I think that's a really good point. I think most people in my industry would agree with that. I mean, look at people like Richard Branson. He has a coach. Now, he would be considered one of the most exciting, innovative, creative and successful entrepreneurs, but he still has coaches to help him get that more edge. That's what he's after. He's after doing something a little bit different and a much higher level.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's that extra 10%, and it might be a mental 10%, it might be a physical 10%. We both come from sport background, and we probably use those analogies a lot because that's what happens in business too. It's that little bit extra that you're getting.
So is there a crossover between sport and business?
Well, for me, yes. And when I talk to CEOs or people at a very high level, they very much appreciate using those combination of a sports person with a business person, because it's a very complex world they live in. There's a lot of things they have to manage, and they can relate to somebody who's a fantastic soccer player or a brilliant surfer or an athlete that can run 9.5 seconds in 100 meters. That's an image that they feel perhaps on the inside of them is what they're doing, or they're a businessman or businesswoman on the outside.
Yes. And do you work with athletes as well, or do you focus on business?
I focus on business now. I'm happy to work with athletes. Now in the UK where I'm based, although I do Skype coaching, whether you're in America, Canada, Dubai, I do that kind of work. But I primarily work with high-performing business people at the moment. But I've had a few inquiries from sports people because they're used to working with sports psychologists.
Yes.
Particularly if they're part of an Olympic team. But there are other people that don't have that support, so they're kind of dipping their toe into what this coaching can do for them.
Yeah, I guess a lot of business people wouldn't think, oh, I need a coach. I mean, you might go to someone and say, oh, I want to do some presentation practice, or I need to make speeches, but beyond that, a lot of people don't have that psyche. They don't think about so it's something that's becoming more popular, is it?
I think it is. I think people are realising in the complex nature of doing business, and of course at the rate at which business is changing with technology. It's every 6 months some major change or product release might have to occur, particularly if you're in a high-tech industry, and there's a lot for them to manage in their mind, and they need some kind of support. Those people at the top who really want to improve will be looking for something else to help them cope with that. I met with a CEO in London 2 weeks ago. That person already has a coach, but then when I explained my method of coaching, which has some differences, it was like, wow, I can see the potential benefit of that for me in the practice that I work in, and that person works in a 50 to 100 million pound business, still small compared to many businesses, but complex.
Let me delve in a little bit to your method and why it's different from what other people do.
Sure.
On Tokyo Real, we often talk about KPI, key person of influence. It's a similar kind of thing where everyone is trying to give themselves the edge, become the best that they can at what they do. So I'm sure possibly a lot of your methods that could help our viewers achieve the things that they want to achieve. So what do you do exactly that's different from other people?
Well, without getting too scientific, I work with a type of method that I call mind image coaching, and basically I work deeper in the subconscious mind, or the unconscious mind, to be more specific. Most of us are dealing with probably 200 bits of information per second that our brain's trying to control and work with.
That's why I'm always confused.
Yeah, exactly. So we can only handle about 130, 150 bits a second. So
I'm a bit lower than that then.
So what happens? Well, the brain will convert that into like metaphors or images and store them in the unconscious mind. That is the natural language of the unconscious mind is what we call metaphors or images and pictures. And that's why we can remember things quite vividly when we smell something or see something or a song. Suddenly it unloads this information. And so what I do is I have a series of questions that will help the person get quite deep very quickly, and then it will release a lot of the resources they already have in their mind that can help them with the job they have at hand. So as a coach, I don't influence the person. I get them to dig very deep in their own unconscious mind to start to ravel through all the information that they have there. I mean, we spoke about it recently. You go up to somebody and you say, "You don't look very well. How do you feel?" We've already implanted the fact that they don't look well, so they're not going to feel well. Yes. So with coaching, I want to make sure that I'm as clean as possible with the questions, so that they can really concentrate on their resources that they have already in their own unconscious mind.
Yeah. And the unconscious mind, beyond that, I heard you talking before about there's two other levels. Are there?
Well, you've got the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, and the higher conscience. Those are what people would talk about. And the unconscious mind needs to be taught how to talk to your conscious mind again, because the conscious mind is the one that gets in everyone's way. The fear of failure, that don't want to take risks if they're a low risk taker, or a new technique they've got to learn, and that's the conscious mind that gets in the way. Yeah. And it's the unconscious mind that can help the person get out of that mode and get into a new mode, or change it to get to a better performance.
We often on Tokyo Real and London Real, we're often talking about going to where your fear is, and getting out of your comfort zone.
Sure.
And are a lot of the people that you deal with, like the CEOs and the already high performers, do they not get to the next level because of a fear factor? Is that a major point?
You'd be surprised. I mean, even the most successful people will have some limiting belief that has no relationship to how successful they are, but it might be affecting them in some part of their performance. And when they start to think wider and more creatively, sometimes those little limiting beliefs are the ones that get in the way. So sometimes I'm dealing with things that might seem very trivial, but they have a big impact with someone when they're doing something at a higher level. Yeah. So I think people do have to get out of their comfort zone. But the problem there, Ian, is that we have sort of 4 learning phases. And the first learning phase is what we call unconscious incompetence. Okay. So we have a go at things, we don't know what we're doing, and we're not being successful, but we're kind of having a go.
Right.
The next level is what we call conscious incompetence. And that is the area where a lot of people give up on a new skill, a new technique, a new learning in business, because they're conscious, they know that they can't do it. They know what they should be doing, but they just can't do it, and they get very, very frustrated. And that's something that can be a real problem in business and in sport and in any performance.
Like 3 feet from goal, they get so far and then
They just can't
Give
get
it
it. Yeah. And then the third level is what we call conscious incompetence. That means conscious competence. That's the third level, conscious competence.
Yeah.
That means we know what we're doing and we're doing okay at it, but we have to be concentrate quite hard on doing that. So let's say you're playing a guitar, you'll see someone looking at the keys, looking at their fingers, they'll be really concentrating on it. But the ultimate level that everyone wants to get to is this what we call unconscious competence or unconscious competence. And then that's where you do things just like that. Me and you, we don't have to think about how we walk. But when we were like 4 months old, we were modelling our parents and seeing what they were doing. We kept falling over, we kept making mistakes, but after a while, we got to that fourth level.
Yeah.
And then we can just walk and don't even think about it now.
And the people who get to that level are the very best at what they do then.
Absolutely, within the skill that they're doing. We talk about someone like Wayne Gretzky. Doesn't have to think. These top athletes, Michael Jordan, they don't have to think.
Yesterday there was a perfect example. We were down at Pipeline, which is probably one of the most famous surfing beaches in the world.
Scary as hell.
Yeah, it was very big and very scary. And one of the ex-world champions came out of the water, and we thought, oh, it's Oki, and we talked to him briefly, and he turned around and said, yeah, it's a bit dangerous out there. The world champion just told us he thinks it's a bit dangerous out there. But there was a lot of good surfers out there, and then suddenly Kelly Slater, for those who don't know Kelly Slater, 11 times world champion, legend, walked down the beach, paddled out, and suddenly, although he only had a little bit of orange on his wetsuit, as soon as he took a wave, bang, he was a cut above all those other, and they were pro surfers out there as well, but he was that level above them.
Yeah.
And he just slotted into some barrels there, which were dangerous big barrels, and he just looked at ease, totally natural.
Exactly.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
For him, it was just what do we call it? Unconscious competence.
Yeah.
Where it was second nature just to take off on a big dangerous wave, slot into the barrel, and just be totally relaxed and probably breathing very shallow, and whereas everyone else was panicking. Am I going to survive?
Well, the beauty of that, with that example, is that when you're at that level, lots of the standard things you have to be doing are unconscious, which allows him to actually look for potential dangers that he does have to think about. But all the other stuff he's doing is all being done unconsciously,
reflex.
Which means he can deal with the odd weird wave or a weird break. He can cope with it because all the other bits are going on automatically. And if you take that across to like a CEO, if a lot of the things they're doing are unconscious competence, then when there is an issue that comes up that's out of the ordinary, they can deal with that.
Right.
So that's why it's good to get to that fourth level, if you like.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Wayne Gretzky, I mentioned Kelly Slater, Michael Jordan, Steve Redgrave. Now, these are guys who are at the top of their game for 20 years plus, probably. Now, let me ask you a question. Often I see athletes, high level athletes, who are physically identical. But there's usually one person, like the names we just mentioned, who for some reason dominate the sport for an extended period of time. How can they do that when physically they're not that much better physically than the others, as far as I can see?
Well, I think for me it's all about the mental capacity. They have something, a belief in themselves more often than not, that everything will be fine.
So self-belief is a really important thing. Yeah?
I think it's huge. I mean, some people have tons of self-belief and no skill, and they're the kind of Eddie the Eagle, you know. I mean, we smile and laugh, but you know what? He was a great example of someone that didn't have all the appropriate skills to really be doing quite a dangerous event, but he had tons of self-belief in himself.
Yeah.
And that allowed him to do things that a lot of people would never dream of.
No. Now, I'm very interested in mental toughness, and I often think that's the difference between the person who can dominate the sport or the business and the others. The psychological approach that they have, their self-belief, but you're a high-performance coach. Can we teach that to people?
Well, it's the difference that makes the difference, as we say in the coaching world. And yes, obviously genetics kick in. And if we know for sure that the genetics are exactly the same, which of course we never will, then in theory the other person, if they do the right work in the same way as that other person, there's no reason why they can't be equal to that person. But that's the challenge. You will find that some of these athletes are doing things that are very subtle that the other athlete isn't doing, which is giving him the confidence and the mental capacity and the mental ability to be even better. And it's what we call modeling. We would, and if you ask a really high-performing athlete or a CEO or an entrepreneur that's been incredibly successful, what's made the difference? They probably won't be able to answer you because it's so deeply ingrained in them that they don't know.
Consciously don't know what it is about them.
So we would have to do like a modelling program and ask very specific questions and work our way back to be more specific and more specific. What happened before that? What happens before that? And when you're in this situation, what happens immediately next? And then what happens next? And that's why you need to get quite deep into their unconscious mind, because that's where all that information's stored. Right. And once you get into that, you can actually sort of do a profile of them, like Wayne Gretzky hitting a puck. That brief 2-second, 1.1 second movement. There's probably a whole string of things that have happened, and most of it he won't even know.
Right.
What he's doing. He's just doing it naturally.
But is it easier to identify in a sportsman than it is in a CEO? We understand sport. You're a high-level swimmer. We've both done a lot of sport at high level and coaching at high level, and it's easy to identify, But with the CEO or in business, how do you identify? Okay, it might be I've got to get up on a stage and make a speech. That's an easy one to identify. You make them better at making speeches. But other aspects of business, can you give me some examples of how you can improve them in certain aspects? Is it staff management? Is it personal relationships?
To be honest, everything starts with the individual.
Right.
And you've got to work on that CEO. If that's the person you're coaching, that's the person that you have to work with. And it might be that we have this term in coaching, that each person's map of the world. Now, I've had experiences in my life that are the same or different to yours. So when I see a given situation, if I see an employee acting in a certain way, I might sort of register that as being this kind of behaviour. You, in the same situation, might register it as this behaviour. So what we do in coaching sometimes is making them aware that however they're acting could be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 different reasons for that. And that could be affecting the way that they're managing that person, and that could affect the way that person's operating within the company environment, where they could not be performing as well as they could be. But if the person understood why that's happening, and it could be because I'm not doing the right things, I'm not perceiving the right things, I need to be more open or communicate in a different way to that person's whole day could turn around, and their whole career can turn around in that company. It's like an athlete, like a football player. You get a new manager in,
a new manager or captain,
and their new management team. Sometimes some players switch off and some players go the whole other way. It's about them knowing themselves first and foremost.
And the ability to lead is so important, isn't it? Especially now in this information age, these modern companies that are now the big companies in the world, they all have basically one person, the founder, whether it be Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Michael Dell or Branson. Those founders embody and lead and are role models, aren't they? And I wonder it seems to me, more than the industrial age, if you take those people away, and it happened with Apple, didn't it? They take those people away, it falls apart. They sort of lose the path that they're going down. So the ability to be a great leader is so important to be in building a successful company.
I think the ability of, I think you're right. And the ability of being a great leader is to do your best to make many great leaders in your business. That's the most powerful way of getting a successful company. If you've got one great leader but loads of followers, then you'll get that issue. You know, Steve Jobs did leave, then he came back and then the company got even more successful. I think you're right. Your job as a leader is to help other people be great leaders. And the more, and that's the problem. A lot of people have a worry about that. They always think, oh, if I make other people successful and great leaders, I lose my job. Well, you know what? Often you don't, because the company flows more effectively, and you can then concentrate on perhaps, rationalizing different parts of the business, perhaps growing other parts of the business, being more creative. If you've got more time to be more creative because you've made a number of really good leaders under you, then that's a much better position to be in.
Yeah, I think I talked about this recently on TOKYOREAL about employing A and A+ players and putting them in the right positions, which does allow you to step back and work on your business, not in your business. Yeah,
and a more powerful thing is to actually bring in coaches and coaching teams, and people like Google have their own coaching department,
right?
Because they realise the power of it, and you coach a C team person to be an A team. Don't bring in loads of A people. Get the growth within the company by getting people more positive and more capable, and bring out more of what's good in them.
Yeah.
For them to put back into the company.
To bring them up, so that the more high performers you've got in the company, better.
Because what a great message! If you just keep bringing in outside talent, you're going to just demotivate a company. But if you're focusing your energy and time on developing your own teams to have them become the best they can be, then that kind of trickles up. It's, instead of it management trickling down, it's like making the employees trickle upwards.
Yeah, competing against each other to be better. A company culture is so important, isn't it?
Very,
and that comes often from the people in the key positions.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have that healthy culture. And what about the future of high performance coaching then? I gather it's becoming more popular. People are switching on to it more.
I think it is. I think a lot more. There's a lot of coaches out there. Some are more successful than others. It can be quite tough to get into. But once you're in there, you'll see so many people that get such a good benefit from it. And sometimes they may be short contracts. Some companies will have a coach for many, many years, and they become. The thing about a coach is, what I say to my clients is, look, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your coach. Yeah. And I think sometimes if you start the relationship off like that, then they'll always be coming to you to push them a little bit further, to challenge them. Because very often, many employees in a company will be too scared to challenge their boss because of fear of losing their jobs or fear of some retribution of some kind. Yeah. With a coach, I can say anything. If a CEO says something to me, well, I don't think this would be right, or I don't think that's the way to go, I say, really? Put yourself in that person's shoes, and if you were saying that to yourself, what would you feel like? Oh yeah, that's probably not a very positive thing.
You can say it, and you're you're looking at it from the outside. So.
I'm being paid not to be their friend. I'm being paid to be their coach.
And you're pushing them out of their comfort zone into areas of improvement, going towards their fear. And I think it's great. It's all very healthy.
Yeah.
And of course, you are available to help our viewers.
Sure.
If they need your help.
Sure.
And you can coach online as well.
Yeah, a lot of what we do now. I mean, I always like to try and have the first consultation face to face, because you read a lot from the body language in real life that you don't get from a video. But to be honest with you, many successful and even the very top coaches that are way above me that have been doing this for years with the technology of Skype and other formats of video and webinar coaching, you can coach anywhere around the world. Tough thing is the time zones. Yeah.
Well, we'll try and send some of our viewers your way, and they can find you on ashleymeerloo.com.
That's correct, ashleymeerloo.com.
Or through TOKYOREAL.
Yeah, preferably for you guys, so you can see what's going on, because you're the one that's done all this hard work.
Well, yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and I know a lot of people are interested in this, and maybe we can talk about it again next time we go on location.
Yeah, why not?
Before we drink beer.
Yeah, before we drink beer, yeah. But no, I'd be very happy to, and to chat with any of your people that are watching this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And we'll put all your links up on the Tokyo Real website, and well, yeah, that's great. I mean, have I missed anything that you want to throw in?
No, I mean, I enjoy talking about coaching. I know sometimes when you talk about the unconscious mind, people think, oh, it's a bit voodoo, but believe me, there's a lot of neuroscience research going on now. There's a great YouTube by a guy called Geary, called Metaphors in Mind. If any of your viewers there want to watch that on TED,
that's good, yeah.
It's about a 9-minute video, and he's written a very good book about it as well. He'll explain the power of the metaphors and the unconscious mind, on how much that can affect change for you as a performer. Right. Whether you're a CEO, like I said earlier, a judge, a musician, an actor, actress.
Yeah.
These things are very powerful.
Yeah. But of course, the people you're working with, they don't need to worry too much about the science side of it.
No, they don't.
Although we're talking about it today,
yeah,
they
sure.
won't know the what's going on behind the scenes.
No,
to them it's going to be simple. Yeah.
To them it's going to be a conversation, but some of the questions would sound grammatically strange, and there'd be teachers out there perhaps watching this that are English teachers going, you can't say like that. But the thing is, I'm talking to the unconscious mind, not the conscious mind.
Right.
And sometimes the sentence and question structure sounds a bit strange.
Yeah.
But it's powerful.
It's good, and it's the future.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up there. Thank you
you
so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
And I hope you come back one day and we'll chat more.
Always open to a conversation.
Thank you.
Good to see you. And thanks,
Cheers.
Lee. Thanks a lot.
Back then when life was easy